Manchester United have signed another Brazilian midfielder. First it was Ederson, and now Andrey Santos. Chelsea rated Santos highly, but there was one big problem. He wanted to be a regular starter. With Moises Caicedo signing a new long-term contract, and Enzo Fernandez still one of the first names on the team sheet, Santos knew consistent minutes were never guaranteed at Stamford Bridge. Well, Manchester United offered him exactly what he was looking for. United prioritized strengthening their midfield all summer, and Andrey Santos, well, he checks a lot of the boxes. He's only 22, but he can play both as a defensive midfielder and a box-to-box midfielder. He's comfortable carrying the ball forward, progressing play through the midfield, and winning duels without the ball. In 2026, the Brazilian midfielder went from a talented kid in Rio to becoming one of Chelsea's most important players. He looked very good under Rosinha, probably because the two already built a strong partnership during their time at Strasbourg.
I'm lucky with Andrey because he's done it for me before. He's done that same position against Marseille and PSG last year.
Rosinha often talked about all the little things that Andrey Santos does that don't necessarily show up on the stat sheet or on the highlights. He's not just about tackles or passes. It's his positioning and awareness that really stand out. Santos has a habit of being in the right place at the right time, cutting off counterattacks or moving into pockets that help the team build their next attack. Rosinha saw him as a selfless midfielder who kept the game flowing, making smart, simple decisions that helped the team create chances even if he wasn't the one getting the assist. It's why he was already being talked about by scouts and being hyped even during his early days at Vasco da Gama. Santos joined their academy at a young age. He actually initially played futsal to lose weight, but naturally fell in love with the sport of football. He originally played in defense before swapping to midfield during his time in Vasco da Gama's youth academy. On March 6, 2021, at the age of 16, Santos made his professional debut for Vasco da Gama as an 85th minute sub. It was the 2022 season in Brazil Serie B where everything changed. Vasco were fighting to get back to the top division, and at only 18 years old, Santos ran that midfield. He played like a classic box-to-box engine, winning duels, covering huge ground, and constantly driving the team forward. People started calling him the little monster because he played with so much intensity and wasn't afraid of the older, more experienced opponents. In 33 league games, all as a starter by the way, he scored 8 goals from midfield. He could shoot from distance, attack crosses in the air, or carry the ball straight through the middle and finish calmly himself. He looked like a midfielder that could defend, create, and score all at the same time. Big names in Brazilian football started noticing it too. Juninho gave him massive praise, saying that technically he was already ahead of most players his age, and physically a beast. But what really stood out about this guy was his mentality. He stayed very calm, worked hard, and never lost his focus even when the games got tough. Looking back now, you can see that those early years at Vasco da Gama built the foundation for the player that United have now just signed. The moment Andrey Santos really exploded onto the world stage was during the 2023 South American Under-20 Championship. He was the captain and he played like a leader from start to finish. Brazil went on to win the tournament and Santos was at the center of everything they did. Even though he's naturally more of a midfielder who controls the game, he ended up finishing as the joint top goal scorer with 6 goals, which again tells you how complete his performances were. What made that run so special was how he stepped up in the biggest moments. One of his best moments came in the final against Uruguay. The game was tight, nothing was happening, like every single Arsenal game, and then in the 84th minute, Santos scored a huge header that basically sealed the title for Brazil. Winning player of the tournament pushed his reputation to another level. European clubs were already watching him because of what he had done at Vasco, but this competition confirmed he could handle the pressure and lead a team. Chelsea moved quickly and signed him for reportedly around £12 million. The only problem was the work permit situation in England. Since he had been playing in Brazil's second division, he didn't have enough points right away, so he had to go back to Vasco on loan for a short period before his European journey could really begin. The toughest part of Andrey Santos' journey came during his loan spell at Nottingham Forest. After a really strong preseason with Chelsea, where he looked super comfortable even against top Premier League teams, the plan was to send him out on loan so he could get real minutes and keep developing. On paper, it sounded perfect, but in reality, it turned into a frustrating period that slowed his momentum. At Forest, Santos barely got a chance to play. The midfield was already packed with experienced players, and he quickly dropped down the pecking order behind names like Sangare, Dominguez, and Yates. Then the manager changed, with Nuno Espirito Santo coming in after Steve Cooper. That just made things even harder. The team was fighting just to stay in the Premier League, so the focus shifted to survival rather than developing a young player on loan from another club. He played only in a few games, barely got any minutes in the Premier League, and played just one full match in the Cup. Most weeks, he wasn't even in the matchday squad. It was never about his talent or attitude. Even Cooper admitted that if Santos had been their own player, he probably would have played him more. That's just the sad reality for young loanees at clubs under pressure. Chelsea saw that things weren't working working and decided to bring him back in January of 2024. Even during that difficult stretch, Santos stayed professional. He didn't make excuses and took responsibility for the move, saying he was ready to prove himself once again if he got another opportunity. Well, that opportunity came in Ligue 1, and it was at Strasbourg where Andrey Santos really took off. He joined the French side in early 2024 and almost immediately became a key starter. What was supposed to be a short loan spell quickly turned into a full season, and honestly it ended up being the most important stage of his development. That's where his connection with Liam Rossinier really grew, because LinkedIn Liam trusted him with a big role and gave him the freedom to express himself.
So Liam, I love my ex-coach, so he's amazing. He helped me a lot. And I improved a lot with him.
At Strasbourg, Rossinier used him as a true box-to-box midfielder in a system with a 3-back, which allowed him to push forward more often and get involved in attacks. The result was incredible: 10 league goals in one season, making him one of the highest scoring midfielders in Ligue 1. But it wasn't just about scoring, he was also leading the league in tackles and putting up strong defensive numbers, showing he could dominate both sides of the game. What really changed during this time was how people viewed him. Before, many people saw him as just a powerful young midfielder with endless energy. In France, he started to look smarter and more complete. He was controlling games while still popping up with big goals when it mattered. Playing so many different minutes in different tactical roles in different tactical systems have helped him grow up really fast. By the end of that Strasbourg spell, Santos looked ready for the intensity and demands of Premier League football, which made his eventual return to Chelsea feel like the next natural step. When he first came back to Chelsea, there wasn't a lot of hype at first. Yes, he had come off a strong year at Strasbourg, but the midfield at Chelsea was already packed with big names like Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez, and even Lavia when he's not on a hospital bed. Early on, his role also felt a bit unclear, and he was still trying to find his place. Everything changed though when Liam Rossinier arrived mid-season. Instead of playing him as a goal-scoring box-to-box midfielder like he did in France, Rossinier shifted him into a deeper role in a 3-5-2 system. Now Santos often sat at the base of the midfield, dropping between the center backs and helping Chelsea build from the back. It was a position that demanded a lot of calmness and smart decision making because he was constantly receiving the ball under pressure. You can also see how much he's grown technically, like in the Carabao Cup game against Arsenal, where he completed 43 out of 44 passes, showing just how reliable he had become in tight spaces. He wasn't trying to do anything flashy, he just made sure that he was there as a stable outlet for Chelsea so that they could build out from the back. Whether it was controlling duels in midfield, helping in transition, or keeping the possession moving, Santos can do a little bit of everything. And because he stayed so deep and disciplined, it actually freed up Caicedo to play a bit higher and be more aggressive around the ball. You could see it in games like the one against Crystal Palace, where Santos held his position while Caicedo bombed forward to press and carry the play. The same thing happened in the game against Napoli.
I felt Enzo and Moy in midfield. The beauty of having Andre there allowed Moy to stay in the middle of the pitch where I love him to be, and him and Enzo were top.
Off the ball against Crystal Palace, you could see how disciplined Santos had become. He was given the job of tracking Brennan Johnson closely. Whenever Johnson tried to move into dangerous areas, Santos followed him all the way back. I mean, if this guy went to take a pee, Santos would have followed him to the urinal. It showed just how much trust Rossinier had in him defensively, because he wasn't just asking him to pass the ball, he was also having him be responsible for doing the dirty work that kept the team protected. Because Santos can hold that deeper position, it means the rest of the United midfielders have more freedom. Someone like Ederson can push further up. Bruno has more freedom to do what he wants to do. Bruno can now focus on creating chances in advanced areas because he knows Santos is sitting right behind them, keeping the structure solid. Another big reason why United wanted Santos was because of how calm he looked when Chelsea built from the back. In today's Premier League, one of the hardest parts is that first phase of play, getting the ball from your goalie or getting it from your center backs when there's a lot of pressure on your shoulders. But Andrey Santos, he makes that part of the game look easy. He was always available, even with pressure behind him, and he kept playing these smart passes through the lines that kept Chelsea moving forward instead of panicking. Because before, Chelsea looked really messy in some of those moments, but with Santos sitting deep, the team felt way more in control. Another thing that makes Santos super valuable is how flexible he is tactically. You can use him in different roles in different systems. You can have him drop into the back line and turn it into a 5-man defense, or you can have him step into midfield and carry the ball like he used to at Vasco. That ability to switch between being a number 6 and a more dynamic box-to-box midfielder is very difficult to do, and that's why Andrey Santos is seen as one of the most exciting young midfielders in the world of football right now. If Santos develops into one of the league's best midfielders at Old Trafford, plenty of Chelsea fans will probably look back at this transfer and wonder whether the club made the right decision. Now, he's not the only Brazilian to join Manchester United. To see just how good Ederson is, you have to watch this video right here.